All right, so let's talk about the Rams Cardinals. A lot to talk about in this game because we've seen these two teams play each other multiple times. So I want to talk about both games each team played. And as always with these videos, I am dividing them up. So for this one, we are going to be talking about the Cardinals offense and how they're going to attack this Rams defense. We have good amount of data between these two teams, so that's always nice. We should be able to get pretty in-depth with this conversation. And what I like to do with these videos always is we're going to talk a lot about film, but let's talk about the numbers first and what actually happened the first two times these teams played each other. And what we're going to do is go through the first game first and then the second game second, and then give my general thoughts at the end. So first things first, the first time these two teams ended up playing each other, this was the Cardinals offensive stat sheet. So you saw Kyler Murray, good statistical day. I mean, very good statistical day. That's like, it's not like otherworldly. It's not like, you know, superstar. He completely went off, but he had a really good day offensively. Also, Chase Edmonds with 120 yards on just 12 carries is shocking. You know, James Conner didn't have a spectacular day. So was that Chase Edmonds being awesome? Was that James Conner sucking? What happened there exactly? And for some of the receiving, you do see Max Williams on there with 66 yards. But again, no one really went off, but you had three guys have really good days there with Green, Hopkins, and Williams. Going over here, this is going to be the chart of, this is every Cardinals offensive player, how they graded in terms of their PFF grade the first time these two teams played each other. So this was in that week 4, you know, first matchup between them. You see Max Williams actually at the top of the list. So that's surprising right off the bat. Max Williams having a big day for the Arizona Cardinals. It's not like, I mean, listen, I like Max Williams, but like, you know, it's just surprising that he would be number 1. Kyler Murray, number 2, DeAndre Hopkins. There's a bit of a drop-off after number 2 in terms of the grading, but he was number 3 there, so that's what worked well. You look at the bottom, some offensive lines doing, you know, a little bit poorer. Part of that is just you're playing the Rams. Like going over to the Rams, the top player that got significant playing time, because Jonah Williams got 9 snaps. Aaron Donald, who, of course, it's Aaron Donald, is number 1. So some defensive line stuff at the top there. And also at the bottom, you have some linebackers who are at the bottom. So that's kind of what we can learn from this. You also do see number 5, Jalen Ramsey, very high, which is, you know, notable, and we'll get into why in a second. So now let's watch the film and what happened in that first game, really. So first things first, let's talk about the running game for a second, just a little bit. I didn't really see a huge difference between when Conner was there or when Chase Edmonds was there. I probably would chalk up their big difference in yards per carry just to coincidence. That's kind of what I think. Edmonds ended up with a 54-yard rush in this one. So other than that, I still thought Edmonds played good on top of that, but that obviously is going to skew the data a little bit, and I thought the running game was good. And a big chunk of it is just like what you see on the screen. I've circled the 2 safeties on this play. You have 2 safeties deep, you run the football, right? That's the cardinal rule of football. You don't always have to do it, but if you do run the football against a 2 safety deep coverage, you're probably going to have some success. And even with a, you know, Los Angeles safety crashing in, you're still able to pick up a solid gain on that. That's probably what you're going to be able to do consistently. The Rams love to do that stuff. So, and quite frankly, a lot of teams like to do that against the Cardinals. So you're probably going to be able to rush for, I would guess over 5 yards per carry in this game. I think that that's probably going to happen. Now, the flip side, let's go over to this play now. Typically, the advantage of having a 2 safety deep coverage, which you see on this play, in this zone coverage play, which that's a lot of what the Rams like to do, is you're going to see that, so basically, these are difficult plays to pull off for the Arizona Cardinals. You want to get a chunk play right here, and you can run zone busters down the field. The issue is that they're difficult to pull off. Watch, Kyler's going to run play action, and you're going to see that, okay, there is a window. This is the, you know, really well-ran route right here by DeAndre Hopkins. So, I mean, he does that. He's good. That's my hot take. DeAndre Hopkins, good at football. There, of course, is the asterisk, which, as of recording this video, I have still yet to see any update on if Hopkins will play or not. Usually when I talk about this, I see YouTube comments saying that he's not going to play, but I haven't seen any verifiable source saying that, and I have seen some verifiable sources saying that he might make it back. It says, you know, I believe Cliff Kingsbury said about both him and JJ Watt, it will be close, so that's worth noting. But also, look at this throw from Kyler. Just a great throw, and again, it helps that Hopkins can get open, but Kyler can fit through tight windows regardless. So you have that combination, and this is how they were able to really just, have a really good offensive day against the Los Angeles Rams. That's how they were able to do it. And also stuff like this, where they're scheming stuff open. To me, this was Cliff Kingsbury's best game as an offensive coach. I think this was the Cardinals' best game plan. They really had great success in this one. It's zone coverage that the Rams are in, and you see the concept. It's just a good concept to beat this type of coverage. You have a receiver runs relatively deep over the middle, another one's running deep and basically, towards the sideline, and basically the safety can only cover one of these two guys. So either you get a one-on-one matchup deep down the field, or you get an open receiver over the middle. Watch how when Kyler takes the snap, there's going to be both, actually, because the safety kind of gets a late start at rushing in, so you could take the open receiver over the middle, or you could throw deep. I'd take the open guy over the middle personally, but Kyler goes deep instead, and AJ Green's going to be able to make this catch, and they pick up a touchdown right there. So again, good stuff by Arizona, and this is what they were just able to do, is they were able to move the ball down the field quickly, don't have to take a ton of plays to do it, where I always say, if you've been watching these videos, you've probably gotten tired of me saying it, but it's true, the more plays you run, the more stuff can go wrong. However, now I want to talk about this play, because, listen, the offensive explosion the first time these two teams played each other, even if the statistics weren't wild, was still a very real thing. They ended up with 37 points in 10 drives. That's 3.7 points per drive. That's an absurdly high number. However, you did see some small things that the Rams were able to do relatively well. Something like this, where it's actually like a cover 6 concept, but don't worry about that too much. It's zone coverage, and the Cardinals have a zone buster that can beat this coverage. Watch how right when this play begins, so you see that this is working the way the Rams want it to work. For Kyler, you can throw underneath or you can throw deeper. The deeper throw is obviously a lot more difficult because it's getting covered pretty well. You have defenders you have to throw over. Maybe if you make a perfect throw and it's a good catch, it can be complete. But really, the smart read here probably is to throw underneath. They throw underneath and they do gain about 8 yards, but you're kind of doing what you want to have happen if you're the Rams. You're limiting the deeper stuff, and that's what we saw, a little bit of that kind of stuff the first time these two teams played. Just a little, but we did see it. It was there. It was notable. Also stuff like this, where this is going to be, I think this is interesting, it's a one-on-one matchup, Jalen Ramsey versus DeAndre Hopkins. So you're thinking, okay, big-time matchup, who's going to win? And as you see, this win is going to go to Jalen Ramsey. That's really good coverage by Jalen Ramsey right there. And so if he can, cover Hopkins well, even if Hopkins is there, well, then you at least have a counter. If you're the Rams, you have a piece you can, play on him. And also, of course, if Hopkins isn't there, that makes things even easier for the Rams because you can use, Jalen Ramsey on whoever you want, and, it just makes things easier for everybody. And also something like this, to be honest, there were a decent amount of plays where you saw oh, that's good coverage. Even the plays that worked, we saw were good coverage. This one's going to be another kind of one of those examples. Watch how when Kyler takes the snap right here, you're going to notice that right here, no one's really open. This is good coverage by the Rams. But here's the other issue with someone like Kyler Murray, who, again, he just came back from the injury the second time those two teams played, and that does have to be factored in because, Kyler Murray, who seems to be fully healthy now, when he has some time, he can add more, basically. Even with just a little bit of time, he can generate more, and at a certain point, guys are going to get open. Watch how Kyler is going to scramble. He's going to eventually find a halfback and still pick up some yards right there. So even with good coverage, the Cardinals are going to get some eventually, and they had a few plays like this where nothing was open, but Kyler just scrambled out and made something happen. And typically I would say, well, if that's happening in a game, advantage to the Rams, because how often are you going to be able to do that if you're Kyler Murray? Well, Kyler does it a lot, so somewhat often at the very least. So these were the stats for the second game. And again, you look at the passing totals for Kyler Murray, the yards per attempt relatively similar. Obviously, he threw it a lot more in this game, and the no touchdowns, 2 interceptions is certainly something that you're going to notice and look at. For the rushing totals, Kyler Murray ended up being the leading rusher. James Conner, another not great game against this Rams offense. So, again, what happened there? Why is James Conner not having much success running the ball against the Rams? And my first, reaction after watching the first game was, oh, they should be able to run the ball for 5 yards per carry at least in the playoff game. Well, in this game, they weren't even able to rush the ball for 2.5 yards per carry when they were giving it to a halfback. The receiving, James Conner ended up being the second leading receiver, but you did have some guys with some solid yardage totals. A.J. Green went over 100. Christian Kirk had 86. DeAndre Hopkins just 54. And again, when your quarterback throws the ball 49 times, receiving totals are going to go up a little. Although going over to the PFF grades, A.J. Green also was the leader in this one, and Kyler Murray had the second highest grade. So not a great stat sheet, but he had a really high grade. That's important to talk about. You look at the bottom, you're going to see it against some more offensive line. In fact, the bottom 4 guys on this list are all offensive linemen. So, hey, credit Rodney Hudson. You weren't at the bottom there, but even he was just sort of mediocre here. So, O-line not doing what you want it to do. And that obviously, you look at the run blocking grade, that wasn't actually horrible. It was largely in pass protection for the most part with those guys, although run blocking grades weren't great either. So then going over to the other side of the ball then, and talking about the Rams defense, there's two sides to every coin. And part of it is, again, of course, Aaron Donald is number one here, and you see a lot of defensive linemen at the top of the list, even Von Miller there at number 6 with a good grade himself. So that's a big part of it, is no doubt about it, the Rams won in the trenches in this second game. Once again, the linebackers are in a position of weakness for the Rams. So interesting stuff. Let's get into the film for this one. The first thing I noticed about this game, and listen, it's the big drop off, right? They went from scoring 37 points the first game to just 23 points the second game. But part of it was they didn't execute the plays that they did the first time because they still had stuff open. This is, concept we already broke down against the same type of coverage, but watch what's going to happen this time. So Kyler takes a snap right here, and what you're going to notice is that Kyler had less time to throw the football. That's notable. That's important to talk about. But B, it's still open. I mean, the over-the-middle stuff was open, and also A.J. Green, the corner who's trying to cover him, falls down right here. It was a good read by a good move by A.J. Green to make this happen. However, Kyler's throw was towards the sideline while Green was running towards the end zone, and the ball falls incomplete. So they had a bunch of yards available on that play and got 0 out of it. And to me, when I see something like that, I'm more inclined to say, I think that realistically, I would bet on the Cardinals to be able to hit that going into the playoffs than not hit that. I would bet on Arizona there. And I mean, there were still some just absurd plays. Like, this isn't even the best one that we saw from Kyler, but it's a great one. It's going to be a cover 2 zone. And again, we still saw a little bit of Kingsbury being able to scheme stuff open down the field against a cover 2 zone, because the way this concept works, just thinking about it logically, is 2 Cardinals are getting into a zone where only 1 safety will be. So he can only cover one of those 2 guys. You throw it to the other one. Watch how when Kyler takes the snap, you're going to notice that the safety crashes in a little bit. He steps just a little bit in to make sure he's covering the over the middle route, which makes sense. Cover A.J. Green on this play, but that leaves Christian Kirk potentially open. But he does have a corner who's reading this and trying to get back with Kirk. However, Kyler makes just a beautiful throw right there. Good route by Kirk on top of this, and good play calling. And this is something the Cardinals can do, and can do relatively consistently, is stuff like that. Like, are we really going to bet on the Cardinals to not be able to do that? Like, I'm not, even though they didn't get as many of those plays this game as they did the last game. Now, let's talk about the interception here. I think that those are notable because, listen, the interceptions happen, and those can be a big way you lose football games, is turning the ball over. The way this concept works is it's designed to beat zone coverage. It's actually a pretty good concept against this type of coverage, but watch what happens. Kyler takes the snap, and you're going to notice that linebacker who moves further in, typically you want him to continue moving further in. However, he's doing a good job of staying back, focusing on the quarterback, and he's going to read that Kyler is throwing it to the bottom of the screen, not towards the top of the screen, even though Ertz would have been open had had this play worked as you designed it to on paper. Because of this, Kyler makes, an interception right there, and you can kind of hope that, hey, maybe if you're the Rams, that stuff will continue to happen. It's possible, and I'll show the other one as well right here. This is just going to be Kyler. It's a play that was working, but Kyler needed to be a bit more patient, underthrows it and throws it to a linebacker who nearly gets a pick 6 on that play. So stuff like that, is that going to continuously happen? I don't think it won't happen, I guess is what I'll say. Something like that I could also see totally happening. the reality is those 2 interceptions were huge in this game, because you think, oh, well, there was a big drop off to just 23 points. Well, the reality is if you take out the, those 2 drives, just pretend like they didn't happen, that would put them at around 2.6 points per drive, which is, still not like, okay, you're blowing them out, but it's higher than the Cardinals average on the year. They average 2.47 points per drive on the year. So just taking those 2 drives out changed some stuff. Finally, the last point, and this can't be understated, is just how good this defensive line was. I mean, I'm not going to break down everything, but I think it's worth mentioning, like, not just in the passing game, but in the running game as well. Like Von Miller being able to do both, that made an impact in this game. This play, of course, is Aaron Donald, the, one of the best players to ever play football, and watch what he's going to do. I mean, look, it's Aaron Donald-like stuff, quickly gets over, and is going to, push a player into Kyler, which results in Kyler falling down. So, dominant stuff from Aaron Donald. So that's the biggest point in the Rams' favor, is just how good their defensive line is. All right, final predictions for this one. So let's talk about it. In the first game these 2 teams played, you saw that the Cardinals scored 37 points in 10 drives. That was 3.7 points per drive. Again, one off. Second game, big drop off, 23 points in 11 drives, which is just 2.1 points per drive. The average between these 2 games, as in this is, all of them together, not the average, which is 2.9 points per drive. So Arizona averages 2.47 points per drive on the year. The Rams only give up 1.91 points per drive on the year. So my prediction is I think that there will be 31 points on 11 drives, or 2.8 points per drive. I do think the Rams, I think what's interesting about this game is I think on script, the Rams actually match up relatively well. The issue is that the Cardinals can just execute these on-script plays to such, efficiency that even with great defense, they can beat, a great offense can beat great defense, and they kind of put that to the test really in the first game and even at times in the second game. Plus, there's just this off-script factor that I think the Cardinals will really have a lot of success with. So I'm predicting them to be able to score a lot of points in this one. I am. 2.8 points per drive is certainly on the high side. Just for reference, the only team that scores more than 2.8 points per drive this year is Kansas City at 2.81. So kind of just goes to show I'm expecting them to have a lot of success on offense in this one. Maybe not as much as they had the first game, because I think that's a bit of an anomaly, but I'm projecting a lot of success. That's what I think. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. And if you're wondering who I'm predicting to win this game, you're going to have to stay tuned. I got another video coming out later today, which will show the other side of the ball. So be on the lookout for that. Again, thank you for watching this long into a longer video, but a fun one. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.